Hey everybody out there, I was working. It's about 1 p.m. No cloud cover today, hot and summery, and so I took a little break and came here to record a video, kind of a response video to my previous video. And I took a break here in this kind of wooded area. I'm experimenting, checking out some native trees. I've discovered some secondary generation trees here, and it's a shady spot, so we're cultivating the canopy and getting to know the native species that the birds plant and mammals bring. And so I'm sitting here in the shade thinking about my previous video, and it was interpreted in a couple different ways, but basically what I said was that what I thought I had said was that the framework surrounding climate change narrative is a lie. And some people seem to interpret that to mean that climate change is a lie, which, words mean things, and the climate definitely changes. But there's a lot of details, and we could get into the weeds on that. But my main point was not that, that the temperature doesn't change, because the temperature definitely changes, and there's some evidence here locally with our nevados that there's less glacier cover now, so you might say that's climate change and that's human caused, and from that point, you could say, yeah, I'm not an expert, so a lot of experts seem to say that the planet is warming and it's probably our fault. Okay. So I'm not an expert enough to say that whether that's true or not, but it seems like a lot of people do say that, and so maybe there's some weight of evidence behind that. But when it gets hot, I come into the shade, right? So I can control that temperature on my own farm. I could plant more shade. These trees keep me cool. Through evapotranspiration, they keep the temperature cool here. They're also absorbing that solar energy and not letting it get reflected back into the atmosphere, to trap it in the atmosphere. And they're trapping carbon here on my farm. And so I can sit in the shade and be comfortable whether or not the planet gets warmer or whether or not my local area gets warmer. I'm sitting in the shade. Okay, so I can do something about the temperature on my farm. And that's a solution. If it's too hot, I can plant shade and I can do something about the temperature. If I have problems with erosion, I can use certain techniques to make sure, or if I'm susceptible to erosion, I can use certain techniques to make sure my farm does not erode, right? And that's important to me, that it doesn't erode. So I can continue trapping biomass and fertility in my soil. But with the climate change narrative, right? So we talked about some things that might be facts. Maybe it's getting warmer. Here's another thing. Let's say it is getting warmer, which it very well might be. Is that good or bad? There's a fact and then there's a value statement. Is that good or bad? Well, it's probably good for Canada. It's probably good for Siberia. I don't know if it's better for the tropics. It's already kind of warm down here. But, okay, let's say that we think that that's bad, that it's getting warmer. Bad for who? If it's bad for me, I plant shade, right? So I can have a solution to it. But if these things are generally bad and is so big, nobody can do anything about it, right? So we frame it like it's a global problem. I even had one comment saying, exactly my point. There's nothing, we just got to hope that some big corporations do something. Well, that seems like a terrible plan. That's what I'm talking about. That's the faulty framework. The solution is to hope somebody else does something? That's terrible. That's never going to work. We need to implement solutions, everybody individually. Especially, and here's the other thing I have a problem with the global thing, and then they focus on carbon and temperature. Is that really the biggest problem? To me, the big problems I see, for example, there are a couple of them. Biodiversity loss. Biodiversity loss is a huge problem. It also happens to be one that I know how to solve, and we're solving here on our farm and in our local community. to let the native species come back, identify them, learn their names, and observe. For example, Colombia is really big in the Global Big Day, the bird watching. One of the things we do is we identify which trees bring the birds. So we're taking, like, bird is an umbrella species, but we're bringing that back to plants. Now, if I want to see more birds, I should leave some of these trees. And it's the same case with mammals or reptiles, plants. Everything's related in the ecosystem. But bringing biodiversity back, breaking monocultures, that's a big issue to me. I have a big problem with where we're headed, and I'm working to solve it. And I'm with my team, with my wife, with here on our farm. We've made a lot of progress. We've identified some solutions that other people can start to implement to solve that problem. It's a global problem, but it's one that we can each solve locally. And so I like that. That's a good framework. It's a framework. There's some other problems, contamination of the water supply, other pollution based things, and a lot of those have solutions at the source. You have to, what is polluting? And how can we turn a waste stream into a value stream, or divert the waste? How can we integrate that into a system, a cycle again? And a lot of the waste problems come with similar things to agriculture, with like a monoculture, industrial scale operations. And so a lot of the solutions might be human sizing the scale of different operations. And some people say unemployment is a problem, but human sizing a lot of these things, like in agriculture, I think is a great opportunity for a lot of people to add a lot of value in the world, and maybe get some food along the way, a place to live. We'll see how that all shakes out. But there's a lot of solutions that when you frame the problems in the right way, it comes up with solutions that individual people can work on. And if they solve problems, they become successful in some way, right? That's how kind of human ingenuity works. If I solve it for myself, then I can solve it for others. I can become a consultant. I can plant a nursery where I can sell the native trees to other people so they can solve their problems, and I'm helping and adding value, and that adds value somehow to my life, often in multiple ways. But if the problem is this nebulous global empire hope that they do something different, or world government, like let's have a world government do what? The solutions that they're proposing, carbon tax. Just a quick anecdote, we have some, this is, I think it's Kyoto Protocol. We have some of the first, carbon bank, carbon markets. They're hitting Colombia now. We got French companies coming in, and I don't know that they're tricking them, but I mean, they're convincing local campesinos to plant trees, to bank the carbon. And as well as I can tell, the French company gets 90 to 95% of the money. The Colombian campesino who plants the trees and takes care of them gets 5 to 10% of the money. And everybody is like, yay, we're saving the world. But it's just like you want to talk about neo-colonialist monopoly. It's a game, it's a money laundering scheme. And so that's where I think the problem comes with these climate change narrative. It becomes a way to launder money between already very rich people. Instead of, and I've been getting a lot of recommendations on YouTube since I've been putting out these videos. YouTube's been like, hey, here's some other people doing cool things like you're doing. And I am just thrilled. I'll have another video soon about all the other solutions going on in the world. I want to kind of connect some dots, because what I'm doing is not necessarily unique. It's unique in the sense that I'm like maybe one of the first 100 people to do this here in this specific ecosystem. But all over the world, people are restoring ecosystems, restoring degraded land, figuring out how to cultivate smarter, better, more climate friendly. And none of that's happening because of hope that somebody else is going to do something. That's all happening because individuals are saying, I'm going to do something here, locally, now, as an individual. And that's, to me, the real action in this world. See you next time.